3 years ago, my 8-year-old daughter climbed into my lap and shattered my world with 7 words. Mommy has a secret friend named Gabriel. My name is Edward Harrison, and I'm 43 years old. I learned that day what I should have known all along. Trust can be the most dangerous gift you give another person. Riley told me that Vanessa, my wife of 12 years, had a lover. More than that, she'd overheard them plotting. Gabriel wanted to take everything I owned. The house, the cars, the company I'd built from nothing. I went through shock. I went through rage. My hands shook so hard I could barely hold her. But more than anything, I found clarity. The kind of cold, sharp clarity that transforms a trusting husband into something harder. Something calculated. I didn't just survive their betrayal. I orchestrated a counterattack so devastating that Vanessa and Gabriel Whitlock are still paying the price. If you've ever been betrayed by someone you trusted completely, this story is for you. Because what follows is proof that refusing to be a victim and demanding justice can turn your darkest moment into your greatest triumph. But let me start from the beginning. Before I go any further, let me know in the comments where in the world you are watching from, and make sure to subscribe because tomorrow I will share a story you don't want to miss. I pulled into the driveway at 6:30 on Tuesday evening, 3.5 hours earlier than expected. The Atlanta deal had closed faster than anticipated, and I'd caught an earlier flight home. I remember thinking I'd surprise Vanessa and Riley. Maybe take them out for ice cream. Vanessa's car sat in the driveway. The house lights were on. Everything looked normal. I let myself in through the front door, set down my briefcase, and called out, "I'm home!" Silence. The kind of silence that feels wrong. I moved through the downstairs. Empty kitchen, empty living room. Then I heard it. A muffled sound from upstairs. Crying. I took the stairs 2 at a time. Riley's door was half closed. I pushed it open and found my daughter curled on her bed, clutching the stuffed rabbit she'd had since she was 3. Her face was blotchy and red. Her dark hair stuck to her wet cheeks. "Hey, sweetheart." I sat beside her, my chest tightening. "What's wrong?" She looked up at me with those big brown eyes, and something in her expression made my blood run cold. This wasn't skinned knee crying or bad dream crying. This was something deeper. "Daddy." Her voice came out small and scared. "I need to tell you something about Mommy." I smoothed her hair back. "Okay. Whatever it is, you can tell me." She took a shaky breath. "Mommy has a secret friend. His name is Gabriel. He comes over when you're gone on your trips." The room tilted slightly. "What do you mean, comes over?" They go in your bedroom and lock the door." Riley's voice dropped to a whisper. "Yesterday I heard them talking. Gabriel said they were going to take everything. The house, the cars, all of it. He said you'd be left with nothing." Her chin trembled. "He laughed, Daddy. He said you were too stupid to see it coming." For a moment, I couldn't breathe, couldn't think. My 8-year-old daughter had just described my wife's affair and a plot to destroy me financially. And the only thing keeping me from losing control completely was the terrified child in my arms. "Riley, sweetheart, are you absolutely sure about this?" She nodded, fresh tears spilling over. "I'm scared. I don't want Gabriel to take our house. I don't want you to go away." "I'm not going anywhere, baby." I pulled her close, feeling her small body shake against mine. "I promise you that. You did the right thing telling me. You're so brave." I stayed with her until she calmed down, until her breathing evened out. Then I tucked her in, kissed her forehead, and went downstairs. Vanessa stood in the kitchen, chopping vegetables. Blonde hair in a neat ponytail, yoga pants, and a fitted top. She looked like she belonged in a catalog for suburban living, perfect and composed. "You're home early," she said, barely glancing up. "We need to talk." Something in my voice made her pause. "About what?" "About Gabriel." The color drained from her face for just a second before she recovered. She set down the knife carefully. I don't know what you're talking about. Don't! I stepped closer. Don't insult me by lying. Riley told me everything. About Gabriel coming. About your plans to take everything in a divorce. About how you two think I'm too stupid to notice. She laughed. Actually laughed. You're listening to an 8-year-old's imagination? Edward? Honestly? Is he real? My voice cut through hers like ice. Answer the question. Is Gabriel real? This is ridiculous. I'm not having this conversation. Answer the fucking question, Vanessa. Her jaw tightened. For a long moment, she just stared at me. Then something shifted in her expression. Defiance, replacing denial. Fine. Yes, Gabriel is real. Gabriel Whitlock. And yes, we're together. You want to know why? Because you're never here, Edward. Always working, always traveling, always putting the company first. Gabriel actually pays attention to me. So you're screwing him in our bed while I'm working to provide for this family? The words came out measured, deadly calm. And you're planning to take me for everything I've got? You don't understand. I understand perfectly. I moved until we were inches apart. You found someone with time on his hands, probably because he doesn't have a real career, and you decided to cash out of our marriage while keeping all the benefits I've provided. You want to have your affair and my money too. It's not like that. Her voice rose. This is California, Edward. I'm entitled to half of everything. I've been a wife and mother. You've been a fraud and a cheat. My voice sliced through hers. And you made one critical mistake. You involved our daughter. You traumatized Riley with your betrayal. She wasn't supposed to. To what? Know what kind of person her mother really is? I smiled, and it wasn't kind. How long has this been going on? She lifted her chin. 6 months. And honestly, Edward, maybe this is for the best. This marriage has been over for a long time. Over. Because you decided to open your legs for some other man. I watched her flinch. You actually think you're going to walk away with everything. California is a community property state, she said, confidence creeping into her voice. I know my rights. Gabriel's helped me understand. Gabriel. I laughed, harsh and cold. Let me guess. Younger than me? Tells you you're beautiful? And somewhere along the way, he started helping you understand your rights in a divorce? She said nothing. Here's what's going to happen, I said quietly. I'm sleeping in the guest room tonight. Tomorrow I'm making some calls. And Vanessa? By the time I'm done, you're going to wish you'd been honest with me instead of sneaking around and plotting. You can't threaten me. That's not a threat. That's a promise. I turned toward the stairs. You wanted to play games with my life, my company, my daughter's future? Game on. But you should know. I don't lose. Edward, wait. I didn't turn around. We're done talking tonight. Every conversation from now on either has a witness or gets recorded. You wanted a war, Vanessa? I paused at the doorway, looking back at her one last time. You just got one. I didn't sleep that night. Couldn't. Instead, I sat in my home office with my laptop open and a legal pad in front of me, turning shock into strategy. By the time the sun started creeping through the blinds, I had 3 pages of notes and a clear picture forming. Gabriel Whitlock, 32 years old, personal trainer at Elite Fitness on Maple Street, the boutique gym where Vanessa had been going 3 times a week for the past year. That detail alone made my jaw clench. How long had he been circling her before making his move? His social media told a story his job couldn't support. Photos of him leaning against a Mercedes, not his according to the tags, designer watches, expensive restaurants, bottle service at clubs downtown. A personal trainer pulling maybe $50,000 a year doesn't live like that unless someone else is paying the bills. I made a list of everything I could find. Where he worked, where he lived, a downtown apartment complex that rented for $2,500 a month, his gym's business hours, The names of two women who'd commented frequently on his posts until about a year ago, then stopped completely. At 7 a.m. Wednesday, I called Morgan Sanders. "Edward? What's wrong?" I gave him the condensed version. Riley's revelation, Vanessa's confession, everything I'd found about Gabriel overnight. "Jesus," Morgan said when I finished. There was silence on the line for a moment. "Okay, first thing, do not move out of the house. That was smart, staying there last night. You leave, and it looks like abandonment. Second, we need documentation on everything. And third, I'm calling Derek Jensen, best private investigator in the city. We need to know exactly who this Gabriel is and what he's been telling your wife. Already ahead of you on the research." I pulled my legal pad closer. He's a personal trainer. No real assets that I can find. But his lifestyle doesn't match his income, Morgan. I think he's done this before. We'll find out. I'm also filing separation papers today to freeze the assets. How much does Vanessa have access to? My stomach tightened. Joint accounts. She's a signatory on most of them. We're fixing that immediately. And the company? It's mine. I founded it 5 years before we got married. She has no ownership stake. Good. That's separate property. But we still need independent valuation and documentation. Morgan's voice sharpened with focus. How are you holding up? I'm past the shock. Now I'm just cold. That's probably the best mindset for this. Stay that way. Document every interaction with her. Keep a journal. And, Edward, don't do anything that could be used against you later. No confrontations, no drama. Understood. Morgan moved fast. By noon, Wednesday, he'd filed the legal separation papers. By Thursday morning, our joint accounts were frozen pending court review. I spent those 2 days in a state of controlled fury, documenting everything in a leather journal I kept locked in my desk. Every interaction with Vanessa. Every time she tried to talk to me, and I redirected the conversation to Riley's schedule. The way she watched me with growing anxiety as she realized I wasn't breaking down or begging her to reconsider. Wednesday evening, she tried. Edward, we should talk about this rationally. We'll talk through attorneys. I didn't look up from my laptop. You're really going to throw away 12 years over... You threw away 12 years the moment you let Gabriel Whitlock into our bed. I met her eyes then. I'm just making sure you don't profit from it. She left the room, and I heard her on the phone minutes later, voice rising in frustration. Probably calling Gabriel. Probably realizing that her plan to quietly drain our accounts and file for divorce on her terms wasn't going to work. The following Monday, I sat in Morgan's conference room with a view of downtown and a cup of coffee I hadn't touched. Derek Jensen was everything Morgan had promised. Mid-40s, observant eyes, the kind of guy who noticed details other people missed. He laid out a thick folder on the table between us. Gabriel Whitlock, Derek said, sliding a photo across. Real piece of work. I stared at the surveillance photo of a fit, dark-haired man in his 30s. This was the guy who'd been sleeping with my wife, plotting to steal my assets. This is his 3rd time running this con that we can confirm. Derek pulled out more documents. First victim was Amanda Torres in 2019. Wealthy husband, lonely wife. Gabriel was her personal trainer. 6 months later, she filed for divorce. 2 months after that, she gave Gabriel a loan of $20,000 that was never repaid. My hands tightened on my coffee cup. Second victim, Jennifer Blake, 2021. Same pattern. Same gym, different location. She gave him $35,000 after her divorce settled. He targets wealthy married women, I said quietly, exclusively, and it gets better. Derek slid over bank records. Gabriel has $50,000 in gambling debts to Thunder Valley Casino. He's desperate. He's been arrested twice for fraud. Charges dropped both times when he settled with the victims before trial. Morgan leaned forward. So he's a con artist with a proven pattern. And he's coaching your wife. Derek pulled out surveillance photos. Gabriel meeting with a professional-looking woman at a downtown cafe. This is Claire Rodriguez, divorce attorney. Gabriel met with her 2 weeks ago. We believe he's been advising Vanessa on strategy, telling her exactly what to say and ask for. I felt something cold settle in my chest. This wasn't just an affair. This was calculated, deliberate. He's using her, I said. Completely. Derek confirmed. She thinks it's love. He thinks it's a $50,000 payday to clear his debts. I looked at Morgan. So what do we do? Morgan smiled, and it wasn't pleasant. We use every bit of this to destroy him. 2 days after Derek's report landed on Morgan's conference table, I came home Wednesday evening around 6:30. Vanessa's car was in the driveway. So was a black Audi sedan I didn't recognize. I walked through the front door and stopped cold. Gabriel Whitlock, the man from Derek's surveillance photos, was sitting on my couch. In my living room, Vanessa stood near the fireplace, arms crossed, trying to look confident. What the hell is this? My voice came out flat, dangerous. Vanessa stepped forward. Edward, I thought we should all talk like adults. You brought your lover into my home? I looked at Gabriel, who stood and extended his hand like we were at a networking event. Around my daughter? Edward, I've heard a lot about you, man. Look, I know this is awkward. Get out of my house. Gabriel's smile faltered. Hey, no need to be hostile. This is my property. You're trespassing. Leave now, or I'm calling the police. Vanessa stepped between us. Edward, stop it. We're trying to be civilized about this. Civilized? I laughed, and it wasn't kind. You're sleeping with him behind my back, plotting to strip me of everything, traumatizing our daughter. And you want civilized? I pulled out my phone, brought up the photo Derek had given me. How about this for civilized, Gabriel? I know everything about you. I know about Amanda Torres in 2019. I know about Jennifer Blake in 2021. I know about the $20,000 and $35,000 loans you extracted from them after their divorces. Gabriel's face went pale. I know about your $50,000 gambling debt at Thunder Valley Casino. I know you're a con artist who targets wealthy married women, seduces them, convinces them to divorce, and then bleeds them dry. Vanessa was staring at Gabriel now, confusion spreading across her face. Gabriel? What is he talking about? Baby, he's just trying to turn you against me. Don't call my wife baby in my house. I stepped closer, holding up the phone. And Vanessa? You want to know what he's talking about? How about the fact that 2 weeks ago, your boyfriend here met with a divorce attorney named Claire Rodriguez? How about the fact that he's been coaching you on exactly what to say, what to demand, how to position yourself for maximum payout? I showed them both the surveillance photo, Gabriel sitting across from Rodriguez at a downtown cafe. This isn't love, Vanessa. This is a con. You're his mark. That's ridiculous, Gabriel said, but his voice shook. Is it? Then explain the 2 previous affairs with married women. Explain the money they gave you after their divorces. Explain your gambling debts. I locked eyes with him. Explain this photo. Vanessa took my phone, staring at the image. Gabriel, you said you'd never been married. You said you'd never done anything like this before. He lied, I said simply. He's been lying to you from the beginning. This entire thing, the affair, the romance, the talk about your rights and what you deserve, it's all been a setup. He targeted you at the gym because he researched me. He knew I had money. He knew you were vulnerable. And he played you perfectly. Vanessa, don't listen to him. Shut up, Gabriel. Her voice was shaking. She looked at me, real fear in her eyes now. Is this true? Every word. I've got a 100-page investigative report that proves it. You thought you were having an affair? You were being played? And now you're complicit in what could very easily be prosecuted as fraud and conspiracy. Gabriel moved toward the door. I don't have to listen to this. No, you don't, I agreed. But if you leave this house, I'm filing a police report within the hour. Fraud, potentially extortion, conspiracy to commit financial crimes. I've got enough evidence to bury you. And unlike those previous women you conned, I'm not going to quietly settle to make this go away. I'm going to prosecute you to the fullest extent of the law. He stopped, hand on the doorknob. But, I continued, there's an alternative. You tell Vanessa the truth, right now. Everything. The other women, the money, the gambling debts, the plan. You confess, and I'll consider not pressing charges. You've got 30 seconds to decide. The room went silent except for Vanessa's rapid breathing. 20 seconds. Okay. Gabriel turned, defeat written across his face. Okay, it's true. Some of it. The other women, that happened. But it wasn't what he's making it sound like. All of it, Gabriel, I said. Or the deal's off. He sagged against the door. Fine. Yes. I've had relationships with other married women. Wealthy women. And yes, they gave me money afterward. But Vanessa, I really do care about you. The plan, I said. Tell her about the plan. Gabriel's jaw tightened. When I met you at the gym, I'd looked you up first. I knew about Edward's company, knew he traveled. I thought, maybe if we got together, and if things went a certain way. He trailed off. You used me. Vanessa's voice was barely a whisper. This whole time, you were using me to get to his money. I care about you. Get out, she screamed. Get out! Get out! Get out! Gabriel fled. The door slammed behind him, and Vanessa collapsed onto the couch, sobbing. I stood there, watching her cry, feeling nothing but cold satisfaction. After several minutes, she looked up at me, mascara streaking her face. Edward, I'm so sorry. I didn't know. I swear I didn't know what he was. You didn't care enough to question it, I said. You were too busy enjoying the attention, the affair, the planning of how to take everything from me. Sorry doesn't fix this, Vanessa. Sorry doesn't undo the trauma you've caused Riley. Sorry doesn't erase 6 months of betrayal. What are you going to do? That depends on you. The next morning, I sat across from Vanessa at the kitchen table. She looked exhausted, broken. Her eyes were red and swollen from crying through the night. Morgan sat beside me, briefcase open, documents stacked neatly in front of him. Vanessa's attorney sat next to her, a nervous-looking man named Albert Hernandez she'd hired the week before. He kept shifting in his seat, adjusting his glasses. This clearly wasn't the meeting he'd expected when he took Vanessa on as a client. Here's the situation, Morgan began, his voice calm and professional. You've committed adultery, which in California doesn't directly affect property division, but it absolutely affects custody. You've traumatized your daughter. You've conspired with a con artist to defraud your husband. And you've demonstrated profoundly poor judgment that calls into question your ability to make decisions in the best interest of your child. Albert opened his mouth, but Morgan raised a hand. Now, wait a minute. No, you wait. Morgan cut him off. Here's what we're offering, and this offer is good for exactly 48 hours. After that, we're going to court, and we're going to bury your client. We'll subpoena Gabriel Whitlock. We'll put Riley on the stand to testify about the trauma. We'll present evidence of conspiracy to commit fraud. Your client will be lucky to get supervised visitation, let alone any significant asset distribution. I watched Vanessa's face crumble as the reality set in. Morgan slid a document across the table. The offer is this. Vanessa receives a lump sum payment of $300,000. That's significantly more than she'd get in a contentious divorce once we factor in legal fees. She gets one of the cars, the Honda, not the Mercedes. She waives all claims to the house, the company, and any other assets. Custody of Riley will be joint, but primary residence will be with Edward. She gets her every other weekend and one evening per week, supervised for the first 6 months while she undergoes counseling. 300,000, Albert said, his voice rising. That's less than 10% of the estimated marital assets. It's more than she deserves after what she's done, Morgan shot back. And it comes with one more condition. She signs a non-disparagement agreement. She doesn't talk to friends, family, or anyone else about the marriage or Edward in negative terms. She tells people it was a mutual decision and wishes him well. Any violation, and she forfeits the payment and loses custody completely. Vanessa was crying again, tears streaming down her face. Edward, please. I made a mistake. I was stupid. I was lonely. But I never wanted— You never wanted to get caught, I said. My voice came out flat, cold. That's different from being sorry. You were perfectly happy to destroy our family and take everything until you found out Gabriel was using you. That's not remorse, Vanessa. That's regret that your plan didn't work. But 300,000, her voice broke. How am I supposed to live? The same way millions of other people live, by working. Get a job, Vanessa. You've got a degree in marketing you've never used. Put it to work now. You'll be fine. You just won't be wealthy on my dime. What about Riley? She whispered. Riley will be with me, where she's safe and stable. You'll see her regularly, and if you actually work on yourself, go to therapy, prove you're putting her first. We can revisit the custody arrangement in a year. Albert tried one more time. Mr. Harrison, surely we can negotiate something more equitable. This is equitable, Morgan said. Your client betrayed her husband, traumatized her child, and conspired with a con artist. She's lucky she's not facing criminal charges. She's lucky she's getting anything at all. 48 hours. After that, we're going scorched earth. They left 20 minutes later to discuss the offer. I sat alone with Morgan in the suddenly quiet house, the morning sun streaming through the kitchen windows. You think she'll take it? I asked. She'd be insane not to. Morgan started packing his briefcase. And Edward? That was restrained. A lot of men in your position would have gone much harder. 43 hours after the negotiation, Morgan called me. Albert just called, he said. Vanessa's signing. I felt something release in my chest. Not relief, exactly. More like confirmation that the strategy had worked. When? Monday. My conference room. 10 a.m. The signing took place 3 days later in Morgan's downtown office. The conference room was all glass and chrome, with a view of the city skyline that normally would have been impressive. That morning, I barely noticed it. Vanessa arrived 5 minutes late with Albert. She looked like she'd aged 5 years in the past week. Her blonde hair hung limp instead of styled. No makeup. Dark circles under her eyes. She sat across from me, but wouldn't make eye contact. Morgan laid out the documents methodically. Separation agreement, custody arrangement, asset division, non-disparagement clause, financial settlement. Sign where the tabs are marked, he said. Vanessa worked through the stack slowly, her hand shaking every time she picked up the pen. I watched her pause before signing the custody papers, saw her throat work like she was swallowing tears. Good, I thought. Let it hurt. The whole process took 20 minutes. When the last signature was done, Morgan gathered the documents and notarized each one with practiced efficiency. Then he handed Vanessa a certified check. $300,000, he said formally. This concludes our business. Ms. Martinez, he paused on the name. As you'll be reverting to your maiden name, you have our contact information should any issues arise regarding custody or the agreement terms. Vanessa took the check with both hands. They were still shaking. She looked at me for the first time since she'd arrived. I really am sorry, Edward, for all of it. I know you are, I said. The words came out, flat, emotionless, but sorry doesn't change what happened. It just means you feel bad about it now. That's not my problem anymore." Her face crumpled, but she didn't cry. She just stood, tucked the check into her purse, and walked out. Albert followed, giving me an apologetic nod like he was embarrassed to have represented her. The door closed, and I sat there in the sudden silence. "You okay?" Morgan asked. I nodded. "Yeah, I actually am." And I was. For the first time in 3 weeks, I felt like I could breathe. That evening, I took Riley to Luigi's Pizza Palace, her favorite place since she was 4. It had everything an 8-year-old could want: arcade games, laser tag, and pizza that was probably terrible, but tasted perfect when you were her age. After we ate, Riley went straight for the skee-ball machines. I sat in a booth nearby, watching her concentrate on rolling the balls up the ramp, her tongue sticking out slightly, the way it always did when she focused. When she came back with a handful of tickets, I pulled her onto the bench beside me. "Can we talk for a minute, sweetheart?" She nodded, clutching her tickets. "Mommy's going to live in a different place now," I said carefully. "But you'll still see her every other weekend, and sometimes during the week too. You'll have 2 homes instead of 1. Because of what I told you?" Her voice was so small. "Is this my fault?" "No." I pulled her close. "This is not your fault. Not even a tiny bit. You told me the truth, and that's what brave, good people do. What happened between Mommy and me? That's between adults. You didn't cause it, and you couldn't have fixed it. You just helped me understand what was really going on. Do you understand?" She nodded against my chest. "Is Gabriel gone?" "Gabriel's gone. He's never coming back." "Good." Her voice got stronger. "I didn't like him." "That makes 2 of us, kiddo." She pulled back and looked up at me, and I saw some of the fear leaving her eyes. It was still there. You don't erase trauma in one conversation. But it was less. "Daddy? Are you going to be okay?" I smiled, and this time it felt genuine. "Yeah, baby. I'm going to be better than okay. We're both going to be better than okay. It might take some time, but I promise you, our life is going to be really good." She was quiet for a moment. Then, "Can we get a dog?" I laughed. Actually laughed. "We'll talk about it." The divorce was finalized 6 weeks later. Vanessa moved into a 1-bedroom apartment in a complex across town. Nothing like the custom home we'd built together. She started working at a marketing firm called Brennan & Associates, entry-level position, making about $45,000 a year, about a quarter of what she'd been living on during our marriage. Gabriel's life fell apart faster. Elite Fitness fired him 3 days after our confrontation. Word spread through the fitness community. Personal trainers talk, especially about guys who sleep with married clients. No reputable gym would touch him after that. His gambling debts caught up with him too. Derek's contacts kept me informed. The casino sent collectors who didn't stop at phone calls. Gabriel ended up in the ER with a broken nose and 3 cracked ribs. After that, he bounced between minimum wage jobs: gas station attendant, warehouse worker, night shifts at a distribution center. Last I heard, he was living in a studio apartment near the airport, the kind of place where you hear every footstep from upstairs and the locks barely work. Good. As for me, I restructured everything. Blocked off weekends for Riley. No exceptions, no excuses. Hired a COO named Marcus to handle day-to-day operations when I needed to be home. Made it to every one of Riley's dance recitals, every parent-teacher conference, every school event. The house felt different with just the 2 of us. Quieter, but better somehow. More honest. 3 months after the divorce was finalized, I went to a charity fundraiser for the Children's Hospital. Black tie event at the Riverside Hotel. The kind of thing I used to drag Vanessa to, and she'd spend the whole night complaining about. I was standing near the bar when someone clapped me on the shoulder. "Edward Harrison, I heard you were in town." I turned to find Nicholas Wright grinning at me. We'd gone to college together, stayed in touch over the years in that way old friends do. Christmas cards, occasional golf games, LinkedIn messages. Nicholas! Good to see you, man. We shook hands, and he studied my face. You look good. I heard you went through some stuff, but you seem, I don't know, lighter? I am, I admitted. Turns out removing toxic people from your life is pretty freeing. Amen to that. He signaled the bartender for 2 drinks. I went through my own divorce 2 years ago. Nothing dramatic, just grew apart. But yeah, I get what you mean about feeling lighter after. We talked for a while about work, about life. Then Nicholas leaned in, his expression shifting to something more conspiratorial. Hey, my sister Annie's in town next week. She's recently single, too. Amicable divorce about a year ago. Works in finance, sharp as hell. Good sense of humor. Would you have any interest in meeting her? Just coffee. Nothing serious. I paused, considering. A year ago, hell, 6 months ago, I would have said no immediately. But standing there in that hotel ballroom, I realized something had shifted. Not yet, I said. Maybe in a few months. I'm still figuring out this new version of my life. Making sure Riley's stable. Getting our rhythm down. Nicholas nodded. Fair enough. No pressure. But the offer stands whenever you're ready. I appreciate that. He raised his glass. To new beginnings. I clinked mine against his. To new beginnings. 5 months after the divorce was finalized, my phone rang while I was reviewing quarterly reports in my office. Edward, it's Morgan. I leaned back in my chair. What's up? I got a call from Albert Hernandez. Vanessa wants to discuss modifying the custody arrangement. My blood pressure spiked. She signed the agreement. Is she trying to violate? Hold on, Morgan cut in. Hear me out. She's completed her 6 months of therapy. Her counselor wrote a letter, Dr. Patricia Bowen, the one we approved. The letter's supportive. Documents real progress. I said nothing, waiting. She's been consistent with the supervised visits, Morgan continued. Never missed one. And according to the court-appointed supervisor, she's actually doing well with Riley. The supervisor's report is clean. What does she want? To eliminate the supervision requirement and add 1 additional weekday visit. That's it. She's not asking for more money, not asking to change primary custody. I stared out the window at the parking lot below. So she wants me to just trust her? Given her documented compliance and progress, it's a reasonable request. Let me talk to Riley first. Fair enough. Get back to me. That evening, I found Riley in her room doing homework. She was 9 now, getting tall, her dark hair pulled back in a ponytail like she'd started wearing it. Hey, sweetheart, can we talk for a minute? She looked up from her math worksheet. Sure, Dad. I sat on the edge of her bed. How do you feel about Mommy's visits? Riley considered the question, her face serious. They're okay. Just okay? No, I mean, they're good. She's different now. Riley set down her pencil. Calmer, I guess? More present. Like she actually wants to be there instead of just going through the motions. Yeah? Yeah. She's nicer. She doesn't talk about Gabriel or get mad about stuff anymore. We mostly just play games and she asks about school, about my friends, about dance class. I felt something loosen in my chest. That's good, baby. I'm glad. Why are you asking? Well, Mommy's been doing her therapy like she was supposed to, and she wants to know if the supervisor needs to keep coming to the visits, if it could just be you and her. Riley thought about it. I think that would be okay. You sure? You can tell me the truth. If you're not comfortable, I'm sure, Dad. She's trying. I can tell. I pulled her close and kissed the top of her head. Okay, if that's what you want, then that's what we'll do. I called Morgan back that night. Tell Albert we'll agree to eliminating the supervision. But the additional weekday visit is conditional. She has to maintain the therapy for another 6 months. Any regression, any drama, and we go back to the original agreement. That's fair. I'll draw up the modification. The papers were drafted within a week. Albert signed them quickly. No pushback, no negotiation. That told me Vanessa really was trying. After the modification was signed and filed, my phone buzzed with a text message. Unknown number, but I recognized it. I hadn't deleted Vanessa's contact, just removed the name. Thank you. I know I don't deserve your trust, but I'm trying to be better. For her. I stared at the message for a long moment. I didn't respond, but I didn't block the number either. Small progress. The modification went into effect the following week. Riley had her first unsupervised visit with Vanessa on a Wednesday evening. I dropped Riley off at Vanessa's apartment, watched my daughter walk inside, and spent the next 3 hours at a coffee shop trying not to check my phone every 5 minutes. When I picked Riley up, she was smiling. "How'd it go?" I asked as she buckled her seatbelt. "Good. We made cookies. Well, slice and bake ones, but still. And we watched that movie I told her about." She didn't. Nothing weird happened? Riley gave me a look. "Dad." "It was fine." She was fine. I nodded, pulling out of the parking lot. Over the next few weeks, the pattern continued. Vanessa showed up on time, returned Riley on time. No incidents. Riley came home happy, relaxed. I didn't trust it completely. Probably wouldn't for a long time. But I could admit, if only to myself, that Vanessa was keeping her promises. And for Riley's sake, that was enough. 8 months after the divorce was finalized, everything seemed to be going smoothly. Riley was thriving in 4th grade, getting straight A's, making friends. Vanessa had maintained her improved behavior during visits, consistent, present, no drama. I'd even started dating Annie Wright, Nicholas's sister, and things were going well. Then Morgan called on a Tuesday afternoon, and I knew immediately something was wrong from his tone. "We have a problem." I set down the logistics report I'd been reviewing. "What kind of problem?" "Gabriel Whitlock is suing you for defamation." I laughed, actually laughed. "You're joking." "I wish I were. He filed papers yesterday. Claims you slandered him by calling him a con artist, that you interfered with his relationship with Vanessa, and that you damaged his reputation and ability to work. He's asking for $200,000 in damages." The laughter died. "That's insane. Everything I said about him was true." "I know that. You know that. But he's got a shark representing him. Steve Clarkson. The guy's notorious for taking questionable cases and betting on settlements because defendants don't want the publicity or hassle of trial. Works about 60% of the time. People pay $20,000, $30,000 just to make it go away. I'm not settling. I figured you'd say that." Morgan's voice carried a hint of satisfaction. "Good. Because this is actually an opportunity. In discovery, we'll subpoena his records, his previous victims, everything. We'll destroy him on the stand. But Edward, it's going to be expensive, time-consuming, and it's going to drag everything back into the open. The affair, the con, all of it." I felt the old anger rising, cold and controlled. He really thinks he can extort money from me by threatening a lawsuit? That's exactly what he thinks, and honestly, it works more often than it should. Not with me. My jaw tightened. File a countersuit. Intentional infliction of emotional distress on my daughter. Fraud. Conspiracy. Hit him with everything we've got. Morgan paused. "Are you sure? This could get ugly." "I'm sure. Gabriel made the mistake of thinking I'd roll over to make this problem disappear. He's desperate. Probably figured I'd pay him something, just to avoid the hassle." I stood, pacing my office, but he just gave me exactly what I needed. What's that? The legal opportunity to finish destroying his life. The divorce only let us expose him. This lawsuit? This lets us bury him completely. Edward. I mean it, Morgan. Everything. Countersue for every cause of action we can possibly justify. Discovery demands for every financial record, every text message, every piece of communication he's had since he met Vanessa. Subpoena Amanda Torres and Jennifer Blake, the women he conned before. Make him explain under oath how he targets wealthy married women. Make him explain the gambling debts, the fraud arrests, the settlements. The court might not allow all of that. Then we fight for what we can get. But I want Gabriel Whitlock to understand that trying to extort me was the worst decision he's ever made. My voice was steady, cold. He thinks I'll settle because it's easier. He's about to learn what difficult actually looks like. Morgan was quiet for a moment. You know what? I'm in. Let me draft the counter-complaint. We'll file it this week. Good. And Morgan, make it hurt. Legally, professionally, ethically, but make it hurt. Consider it done. After I hung up, I stood at my office window, looking out at the city. Riley was safe. Vanessa was improving. My company was thriving. I'd rebuilt my life. And Gabriel Whitlock thought he could come back for one more payday? He really should have stayed gone. This time, I wasn't just going to expose him. I was going to make sure everyone, every gym, every potential victim, every court in this state knew exactly what kind of predator he was. Gabriel wanted a war. He just got one. The lawsuit consumed the next 3 months of my life. Discovery was brutal. Depositions, document requests, interrogatories that seemed to multiply every week. Steve Clarkson was everything Morgan had warned me about. Aggressive, unpleasant, and determined to paint me as some vindictive husband who'd destroyed Gabriel's life out of jealousy. "Mr. Harrison," Steve said during my deposition, leaning forward like a shark smelling blood, "isn't it true that you were so enraged by your wife's affair that you set out to systematically ruin Gabriel Whitlock's reputation?" "No," I said calmly. "I told the truth about what he was doing. There's a difference. You called him a con artist, because that's what he is. You interfered with his employment. I didn't interfere with anything. I informed people about factual information regarding someone who was targeting wealthy married women. What they chose to do with that information was their decision." Steve tried for 2 hours to get me to crack, to admit I'd acted out of revenge or spite. But I'd spent 3 months preparing with Morgan, and I knew the law. Truth is an absolute defense to defamation. If everything I'd said about Gabriel was accurate, he had no case. The turning point came during Gabriel's deposition. I wasn't there, Morgan handled it, but he called me afterward, and I could hear the satisfaction in his voice. We got him. What happened? Steve made a mistake. He let Gabriel talk too much. Morgan paused, and I heard papers shuffling. I walked him through every statement you made about him. Let me read you the transcript. He did, and it was beautiful. Morgan Sanders. Mr. Whitlock. Mr. Harrison stated that you had affairs with 2 previous married women, Amanda Torres and Jennifer Blake. Is that statement true or false? Gabriel Whitlock. It's more complicated than Morgan Sanders. True or false, Mr. Whitlock? Gabriel Whitlock. True, but Morgan Sanders. He said those women gave you money after their divorces. True or false? Gabriel Whitlock. They were loans, Morgan Sanders. True or false? Gabriel Whitlock. True. Morgan Sanders. He said you have gambling debts. True or false? Steve Clarkson. You don't have to answer. Gabriel Whitlock. True. So what? None of that proves I was running a con on his wife. Morgan Sanders. Actually, it proves exactly what Mr. Harrison said about you was factually accurate, which means it's not defamation, Mr. Whitlock. It's truth. Morgan said the room went dead silent after that. Steve tried to recover, but the damage was done. Gabriel had admitted under oath that everything I'd said was true. The deposition went downhill from there. By the time they finished, Steve looked visibly frustrated, and Gabriel looked like a man who'd just realized he'd destroyed his own lawsuit. 2 weeks later, Steve called Morgan. My client wants to dismiss the lawsuit. With prejudice? Morgan asked. Yes. And he'll sign an affidavit stating that everything Edward Harrison said about him was truthful. Long pause. Yes. And he'll pay Edward's legal fees? He doesn't have... Then he can file for bankruptcy after the judgment, Morgan said flatly. Those are our terms, Steve. Take it, or we're going to trial, and I promise you, we'll make your client's life a living hell on that stand. Steve took the deal. 3 days later, the dismissal and affidavit were filed with the court. I sat in Morgan's office, reading the document where Gabriel Whitlock officially admitted that everything I'd said about him was true. You're really going to frame that? Morgan asked, amused. Damn right I am. I looked up. Reminder that truth is an absolute defense. You know he's filed for bankruptcy? Good. I handed the document back to Morgan. Maybe that'll teach him that other people's marriages aren't his retirement plan. Morgan had the document professionally framed. Matted, museum-quality glass. The whole treatment. I hung it in my office the day it was delivered, right where I could see it from my desk. That evening, I sat down with Riley. She was almost 10 now, taller, more confident. The scared little girl who'd climbed into my lap 2 years ago had become someone stronger. I want to tell you something, I said. Remember when Mommy and I got divorced? When things were really hard? Riley nodded. Well, there was a man who tried to hurt our family, and today he officially admitted he was wrong. He's not going to bother us anymore. Is that the bad man from before? Riley asked. Gabriel? Yeah, kiddo, that's him. And he's gone for good now. Did you beat him, Dad? I smiled. In a way, I proved he was lying and that we were telling the truth. And that's the most important victory there is. Riley hugged me tight. I'm glad you protected us. That's my job, sweetheart. I held her close. Always will be. 6 months after Gabriel's lawsuit collapsed, I finally called Nicholas. Still want to introduce me to your sister? He laughed. Took you long enough? Yeah, man. She's in town this weekend. Coffee? Coffee works. Annie Wright was 42, sharp-witted, and successful in her own right as a financial analyst. We met at a cafe downtown on Saturday morning. She had an easy smile, confident handshake, and none of that desperate energy some single people carry. Coffee turned into lunch. Lunch turned into a walk through the park. By the time we said goodbye, we'd already scheduled dinner for Tuesday. I was honest with her from the beginning. Over that second date, I laid it all out. The affair, the con, the divorce, the custody battle, Gabriel's lawsuit, everything. She listened without judgment. When I finished, she nodded slowly. I had something similar happen, she said. Not the con artist part, but the betrayal. My ex-husband had an affair with his business partner. It destroyed everything we'd built together. How'd you handle it? Therapy. Lots of therapy. She smiled, but there was old pain behind it. And eventually, I realized that his choice to cheat wasn't about me. It was about him, his character, his weaknesses. Once I stopped taking it personally, I could move forward. That's wise. It took me 3 years to get there, she admitted. You seem like you're in a better place than I was. I had to be. For my kid. She needed to see that life goes on, that you can survive betrayal and come out stronger. Annie reached across the table and squeezed my hand. That's a good dad. We dated for 8 months before I introduced her to Riley. I'd been careful, protective. I wasn't going to parade someone through my daughter's life who might not stick around. The introduction went well. Annie was warm, but not pushy, interested in Riley without trying to replace Vanessa. They talked about books, about Riley's dance classes, about Annie's daughter from her previous marriage. Natural. Easy. A year after that first coffee, I proposed. Small ceremony, just close friends and family. Riley was my best woman, walking Annie down the aisle with me, grinning the whole way. Vanessa sent a card. Congratulations. Riley tells me she's wonderful. I'm glad you found happiness. I didn't respond, but I appreciated the gesture. It's been 3 years since Riley whispered those words that changed everything. 3 years since I discovered Vanessa's affair and Gabriel's con. Here's where everyone landed. Vanessa still works at the marketing firm, still entry level. She's been passed over for promotion twice. The $300,000 I gave her? Gone. She burned through it in 2 years. Apartment deposits, furniture, car repairs, living expenses while she adjusted. Last I heard, she's got maybe $8,000 left and lives paycheck to paycheck in a 1-bedroom apartment. She drives a 12-year-old sedan that breaks down constantly. But credit where it's due, she has become a better mother. She sees Riley regularly, and she's present now in a way she never was during our marriage. Therapy did help with that. She's dating a teacher named Daniel. Seems decent enough, but she'll never have the lifestyle she had when we were married. And I think she finally understands what she threw away. Gabriel? His life is a cautionary tale. The warehouse still employs him. Night shifts, minimum wage. Studio apartment in the worst part of town. His car got repossessed 8 months ago. He takes the bus to work. The 2 previous women he conned both filed civil suits after our case became public. And he settled both for amounts that'll keep him in debt for the next decade. His wages are garnished for multiple judgments. He's basically working just to pay off what he owes, and he'll be doing it for years. As for me, I'm happier than I've been in a decade. Annie and I just bought a house together. Bigger than the old place, room for both our daughters. The blended family thing has its challenges, but we're making it work. Riley's 12 now, confident, strong. She's in therapy, not because she's damaged, but because I wanted her to process everything with a professional. She told me last month, "I'm glad I told you about Gabriel, Dad. You protected us like dads are supposed to. My company's thriving. Revenue up 30% year over year. The new COO is fantastic. I still have that framed court document in my office. Gabriel's admission that everything I said was true. Every time I see it, I'm reminded that honesty, preparation, and refusing to be a victim can overcome even the most calculated betrayal. People ask me sometimes if I regret how hard I came down on Vanessa in the settlement. The answer is no. She made choices, and choices have consequences. I gave her enough to start over, more than she deserved. Everything else was built by me, and I wasn't going to let her theft and betrayal steal it. Gabriel bet I'd be too weak to fight back effectively. Vanessa bet I'd never find out until it was too late. They both lost those bets, and I'm doing just fine. I believe stories such as this find us for a reason. If this one touches you, please subscribe. I share a new one every day. In the meantime, there are 2 stories on the screen that are even better.